Soil, the bridgeworks of AFRODEITIES. Soil is not background. Soil is archive. It holds memory in mineral form. It records what was planted, what was harvested, what was lost. It carries genetic information, microbial intelligence, and ecological knowledge across centuries. African civilizations understood this. Soil was not property to own. It was relationship to maintain. In the bridgeworks, soil operates in Band 3, civilizational sciences. It sits between memorabilia and numbers, showing how material memory becomes measurable practice. Soil is where knowledge becomes edible, where cosmology becomes agriculture, where myth encodes ecological intelligence. This is not metaphor. African farming systems embedded astronomical observation, mathematical calculation, and ritual timing into land practice. The soil remembered what the calendar instructed. And when African people were forced to cross oceans, soil knowledge traveled with them. In seeds hidden in hair, in planting techniques encoded in muscle memory, in crop choices that carried home forward. The question, direct. Why does the same food appear everywhere Black people landed? Red rice in the Carolinas, red rice in Brazil, red rice in the Caribbean. The same grain, the same cultivation method, the same cultural significance. This is not coincidence. This is continuity. Enslaved West Africans carried rice knowledge and actual rice seeds across the Middle Passage. They brought the technology of tidal irrigation, the timing of seasonal planting, the methods of processing and cooking. The plantations that made fortunes from Carolina gold rice did so because enslaved experts knew soil. They knew water. They knew time. They knew rice. The crop was African. The knowledge was African. The labor was African. The profit was not. Ecological intelligence, emphatic. African agricultural systems were not primitive subsistence farming. They were sophisticated ecological engineering. Multiple crop varieties adapted to different soils and rainfall patterns. Drought-resistant sorghum for lean years. Fast-maturing millet for short-growing seasons. Deep-rooted yams for uncertain rains. Intercropping prevented pest cycles and maintained soil fertility. Crop rotation restored nutrients without chemical inputs. Fallow periods allowed land to regenerate. This was not accident. This was design. African farmers understood soil as living system, not inert resource. They knew that what you take from soil, you must return. That diversity protects against failure. That patience yields abundance. These principles sustained African populations for millennia. They still work. Industrial monoculture depletes soil in decades. African polyculture maintained fertility indefinitely. The difference is philosophy. Extraction versus regeneration. Diaspora transmission. Soil knowledge could not be confiscated. You can seize land. You can ban languages. You can destroy archives. But if a person knows when to plant, what to plant, and how, that knowledge survives. Enslaved Africans recognized soils in the Americas. They understood drainage, pH, mineral content through observation and practice. They knew which crops would thrive where. Okra, black-eyed peas, watermelon, sesame, cola, diaspora crops that appear across the Americas because knowledge carriers planted them. These were nutritional, medicinal, and mnemonic. To grow okra was to remember home. To harvest black-eyed peas was to continue. But there is another pattern, a darker one. Health pattern. Why do the same health problems appear in Black populations globally? Diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. Across the diaspora, African Americans, Afro-Caribbeans, Afro-Brazilians, the same conditions at disproportionate rates. The explanation is usually genetic. Black people are predisposed. But that explanation fails when you look at Africa. These conditions were rare in traditional African populations eating traditional African foods grown in African soil. The pattern appears when diet shifts, when soil knowledge is severed, when industrial food replaces land-based nutrition. Red rice is nutrient-dense. Okra regulates blood sugar. Black-eyed peas provide complete protein. Traditional African crops grown in healthy soil produced healthy populations. The diaspora maintained some crops, but lost the soil context. Food grown in depleted industrial soil lacks the mineral content of food grown in regenerated traditional soil. The same plant, different nutrition. And when cash crops replaced food crops, when monoculture replaced diversity, when chemical inputs replaced ecological knowledge, health declined. This is not genetic destiny. This is ecological severance. Soil as covenant. In African cosmologies, soil carried obligation. Among the Igbo, Allah is the earth deity governing fertility, morality, and social order. To violate Allah through theft, murder, or ecological harm polluted the land and required purification. This was not superstition. It was governance technology. The belief that land could be polluted by wrongdoing functioned as environmental law. It prevented overuse, enforced reciprocity, and maintained long-term sustainability. Soil was not commodity. It was covenant. This is why seed sovereignty movements across Africa resist corporate agriculture. Why indigenous farmers maintain land races despite pressure to adopt commercial hybrids. Why traditional knowledge holders refuse to separate ecology from ethics. They understand what industrial systems forgot. Soil is not inert substrate for extraction. Soil is living relationship requiring care, reciprocity, and long-term commitment. Soil and seed. Soil operates in direct relationship with seed, the codex that follows it in the BridgeWorks circle. Soil provides the context seed requires to germinate. Seed renews soil through harvest and replanting. What is taken becomes seed. What is planted becomes harvest. The cycle continues. This is Band 3 completing itself and entering Band 4. Material science becoming stored futurity. Without soil, seed cannot grow. Without seed, soil cannot renew. The relationship is reciprocal, recursive, and regenerative. This is African ecological intelligence. Nothing is isolated. Every element depends on and sustains the others. Contemporary crisis. Soil is under attack globally. Industrial agriculture depletes soil faster than it can regenerate. Chemical fertilizers destroy microbial ecosystems. Monoculture eliminates biodiversity. Erosion strips topsoil. Climate change accelerates degradation. Africa is both victim and battleground. Corporate agriculture promotes extraction methods that enrich shareholders while impoverishing land. Food sovereignty movements resist precisely because they understand. Lose the soil, lose the future. But African ecological knowledge offers alternatives. Regenerative agriculture rediscovering principles African farmers never abandoned. Intercropping, crop rotation, soil regeneration techniques proven over millennia. This is not romantic primitivism. This is survival technology that works. Soil remembers what was planted. It carries the genetic signatures of what grew there, the mineral traces of what was harvested, the microbial communities that sustained it. when everything else is stripped away, when archives burn, when languages are banned, when memory holders die, soil still remembers. African people carried soil knowledge across oceans because it could not be confiscated. You can seize the land, but not the knowledge of how to work it. This is why soil sits in the Bridgeworks as civilizational science, because the relationship between people and land is not background. It is archive, it is technology, it is covenant, and it remembers. This is soil, one of 12 Bridgeworks codices within the AFRODEITIES canon. The Bridgeworks are fable, griot, score, spell, script, sigil, memorabilia, soil, numbers, time, technologica, and seed. Each codex is a bridge, connecting myth to system, past to future, rupture to continuity. Together, they demonstrate the power and sophistication of African civilizational architecture. How knowledge was archived, transmitted, and preserved across time and rupture. AFRODEITIES exists to prove that African memory systems were not primitive. They were engineered for survival, and they worked.